Islam. Welcome to the More Sense channel. I'm your host, Sheikh Brendan Joyner Ill, Brother Brendan Joyner Ill, member of the More Science Temple of America, Temple number 13, located in Baltimore, Maryland. I am launching the More Sense channel. This channel is dedicated to those who have a deep interest in the More Science Temple of America, would like to learn more about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and to learn from a lens of an educational platform and format. This channel is a relatively new channel, a revamped channel. Initially, back in 2018, myself and Sheikh M. Balaz Bey, we created this channel with the sole purpose of teaching and creating an educational platform for our people and for the people and for the greater good of humanity in general. So with that being said, the first thing I would like to do, I would like to welcome you to the More Sense channel. I would first like to uh, open up our channel and open up this specific lesson with the Moorish American prayer. And I'm going to just recite the Moorish American prayer. And by all means, if you feel comfortable, you can recite it too, wherever you are along the way. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam. I want to give honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to rise and give honors, raise my thoughts, and give honors to our beloved Prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, January the 8th, 1886. And I also want to give honors to the Prophet's forerunner, Brother Marcus Mosiah Aurelius Garvey. I want to give honors to all past and present leaders of the Moorish Science Temple of America, those that we know and those that we don't know, also the ones that we find on the back of our authority. I want to give honors to the administration, the leadership of Temple number 13. I want to give honors to Supreme Grand Sheikh C. Prather Ill. I want to give honors to his wife, Supreme Grand Sheikh B. Prather Ill. And I also want to give honors to our national officials. Specifically, I want to give honors to our national Grand Sheikhs, and Grand Sheikhs of Temple number 13. That's Grand Sheikhs T. Jones Bay. And I want to give honors to all the members of the Royal Council at 1055 North Milton Avenue. I want to give honors to the ancestors. I want to give honors to our children, our Moorish children, our Asiatic children. I want to give honors to them, not only because they are our future, but because they are the ones who are teaching us best by the example and being closest to the great God Allah. I want to give honors to my wife. I want to give honors to my wife, Deputy Sheik's sister T. Joyner Ill, and my children, my son and my daughter. I want to give honors to them as well. Islam. The purpose of the program. So the history of the program and the purpose of the program. So ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, the purpose of this program is to uplift and to enlighten our people. A few years ago, myself and my co-host, Sheikh M. Balaz Bey, who will be on other episodes in the near future, we created this show called More Sense Media. And from there, we created a Facebook page and a Facebook page, and we live streamed our shows and episodes. So many of our old episodes can be found on Facebook Live. But we also had a YouTube page that we weren't utilizing. And I mentioned to the brother, I said, well, we have this channel, we have this page, and, it's been sitting, dormant for about 2.5 years. And it's time to relaunch. It's time to rebrand. It's time to do something different. It's time to create a new energy, because right now we're on the cusp of people wanting to know more about the Prophet. And today is a very special day for me, and specifically February 1st, 2015 is the day I united into the Moorish movement. I came into the Moorish Science Temple of America as a young man at the age of 24 years old. I came into the Moorish Science Temple of America seeking to learn more about myself, seeking to learn more about how I can uplift and aid my people, seeking to learn more just about what it means to be a man and what manhood looks like, and what does it look like to create cohesiveness and unity. So ultimately, I learned these lessons by way of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And now I've been in the temple for approximately 9 years to the day. And I'm learning, and I'm still learning. And I give honors to all my elders, all of my elders who are still in this form, and those who have transitioned out of this form and have gone to other planes. I want to just invoke the name and give honors to one of my first teachers. He is a pillar in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and that's Grand Sheikh R. Thornhill. I want to give honors to Grand Sheikh Y. Greenhill. I want to give honors to our past chairman, also known as the Iron Sheik to many here in Baltimore, and that's Grand Sheik C. Johnson Hill. I want to give honors to them because of the examples that they led and the examples that they taught, and they didn't just teach by lip service, but they taught by examples. I want to give honors to them. But February 1st, in the hearts and the minds of many people is important. But specifically here in America, we find that the Asiatics of America, and by Asiatics, I'm talking about so-called blacks, they find themselves celebrating what is called so-called Black History Month, which to me is very interesting when you think about it in a sense, because when you look at it from a historical point of view, this celebration of this month-long celebration at one point in time, it was only 1 week. And it was called Negro History Week. It was created by Carter G. Woodson on February 7th, 1926. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, because today's lesson and today's topic is, well, what is the purpose of a nationality, or do I need a nationality? Do you need a nationality? The answer to that question is yes. Why is it important to have a nationality, and what is the purpose of having a nationality, right? So before we get into that, I want to get to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I just want to give the viewers and the listening audience just a little bit of information pertaining to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, pertaining to the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I'm also going to be using various different sources. So give me 1 second, please. Just adding the source so everyone can see. I'm just uploading the source. Okay. Praise Allah. So the first source I want to bring everyone's attention to is the guideline and the criteria that governs our lives here in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And that guideline and criteria is known as the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Just a small. Okay, there we go. All right, praise Allah, it's coming up now. Technology is definitely a thing out here in these times when you have to really be on it, you know. But all is well. So here we go. All right. And it's processing. It's taking a little bit of time. All right, here we go. Awesome. All right, so the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is what governs our lives as Moorish Americans. Specifically, what I want us to focus on this evening is Act 6. Act 6 in the Divine Constitution and Bylaws reads as follows: with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now, that sounds like a lot. When you see what the Prophet Noble Drew is putting down in Acts 6, it sounds like a lot. But I want to walk us through the step-by-step basis of what the Prophet is teaching us. The first thing the Prophet Noble Drew teaches us is that we have a nationality. Unbeknownst to many, we think that nationality, it deals with race. A lot of people look at nationality and think that race and nationality go hand in hand with each other. But on the contrary, race and nationality are two separate things. And what you'll find upon coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America, not only was our nationality stripped from us, but our race was stripped from us as well. And by us, I'm talking about individuals who at one point in time, or even to this current day, identify themselves as Negroes, colored folks, black people, etc., African American, etc., etc., etc. And the Prophet Noble Drew states first that, well, you have to learn your nationality, you have to proclaim your nationality, and you're proclaiming your nationality, you're going through a school. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a school, and with any school, you have a curriculum. The curriculum that the Prophet Noble Drew gives us is the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, our authority, also affectionately known as the Circle 7, which is also known as the Quran Questions for Moorish Americans, Quran Questions for Moorish Children, interchangeably. And then also, we also have other texts, supplemental texts, one being the Moorish literature, which has a compilation of different and various articles that were featured in the Moorish Guide, the newspaper during the time of Prophet Noble Drew. And then we also have the Great Book of the Resurrection. The Great Book of the Resurrection is not a book to supersede or to upsert any of the works of the Prophet Noble Drew, but it's to help and aid and assist members of the Moorish Science Temple of America to get a better understanding or to clarify the misunderstandings that many of us have had and continue to have pertaining to what this movement is all about. So with that being said, the Prophet Noble Drew says that, number one, we have to proclaim our nationality, and then we have to teach our people their nationality and their divine creed. That is a duality. It's something, the duality to teaching nationality and divine creed is letting us know that, number one, we're dealing with an aspect that comes from the Creator. As we say in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the personal and proper name for the great God is Allah. And from that point, we're gonna go to our next source. Now, the Prophet Noble Drew is teaching us that, number one, we're to proclaim our nationality, and to understand the second part is that we're part and partial of this said government. But it's a blessing because the Prophet Noble Drew is teaching us that we're not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. And the word Negro to many may seem like an antiquated term. It may seem like a term that's outdated. But when you look at the word Negro, Negro is interchangeable with the word black. It's also interchangeable with many other different words. But when you look at the word Negro, Negro and black are interchangeable. Negro means black in the Spanish language. So with that being said, give me 1 second, please. I'm just going to pull up the next document. In the document, we have this being presented. Give me 1 second. Because sometimes it requires us to take a realistic look and a realistic lens of what's being presented, right? So here we go. And I'm just going to rotate this. Give me 1 second. I want to turn this one, remove it, and then rotate it again. Okay, rotate, and then, all right, here we go. So So now that it's been rotated, now it's time to upload and reload again. And all is well. We have time on our hands, so it isn't, it's no big deal. Again, this is just the introductory phase, getting people into the mindset of understanding, one, that we cannot be Negroes, colored folks, or black people, or Ethiopians for that matter. And that's a totally different situation at hand. All right, so I'll read this. It seems like the format is coming out different, but when you look at Negro, and this is an excerpt coming from the Encyclopedia Britannica, the first American edition of 1798. These documents are readily available to anyone that would like to receive one upon request. I actually received this document when I was in undergrad, and one of my professors, it was a class that I had called Ethnographic Showcases, and the specific document had the definition of Negro in it. And one thing that the professor explained to me, he said, whatever you do, any of the documents or any of the articles that you receive, you may need them at a later date. So don't get rid of this pamphlet. Don't get rid of this compilation. And it was a blessing that I received it. It was also a blessing that I obtained it and maintained it. And even it didn't make sense to me at that time what I was reading. But coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America and learning the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it makes clear sense. And it has made clear sense almost over the past decade. So here it is, Encyclopedia Britannica's definition of Negro. It says Negro, homophilia nigra, a name given to a variety of human species who are entirely black. And the Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us that black, according to science, means deaf. And we'll get into that as well. And are found in the torrid zone, especially in that part of Africa which lies within the tropics. And the complexions of Negroes we meet with various shades, but they likewise differ far from other men in all features and of their face: round cheeks, high cheekbones, a forehead somewhat elevated, a short, broad, flat nose, thick lips, small ears, ugliness, irregularity of shape, characterized by their external appearance. Now I want to stop right there, because what you're seeing happening in this specific document, and this is the first American edition, 1798, Encyclopedia Britannica. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us in the same act that we read earlier in our Divine Constitution and Bylaws, Act 6, that slavery lasted in this country, in the country known as the United States of America, from 1779 to 1865. So the first edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica pertaining to this country known as the United States of America, these are the things that people were learning. These are the constructs. These are the ideas that people were learning as it pertained to Asiatic people, as it pertained to Moorish American people. These are the ideas that were going through the minds of individuals who are reading this. And as they continue to read it, they start to formulate not only opinions, but they start to formulate specific images, specific songs, all different types of things to project or to create an image or a stigma in the minds that Asiatic people were less than, which is not true. It's not true at all. So continuing, and we have to be very mindful, beloved brothers and sisters, on the things that we project and the things that we put out, and the things that we give credence to, because everything starts with a thought. Every single action starts with and begins with a thought. So the question that comes to my mind when I start having specific thoughts, especially thoughts that aren't thoughts that I find that are part of my nature. Where are these thoughts coming from? Number one, and why am I feeling this specific way, right? Because every thought carries a specific vibration as well. It says, the Negro woman having loins greatly depressed and very large buttocks, which gave the back shape as a saddle. This is a European writing this. Vices, the most notorious seem to be the portion of this unhappy race. And this is, again, descriptors: idleness, treachery, revenge, cruelty, impudence, stealing, lying, profanity, debauchery, nastiness, and intemperance are said to have extinguished the principles of natural law and to have silenced the reproofs of conscience. So they're saying that, and this is in 1798, that our foremothers, our foreparents, the founders of civilization, those individuals who were intricate in not only developing this nation, but several different nations and civilizations. These are the things that are being written by them, and it's going contrary to the nature of who they truly were and who we truly are today. It states, they are strangers to the very sentiment of compassion and are an awful example of the corruption of man when left to himself. Now, these are the things that we find, or those attributes, those low vibrating attributes, are some of the attributes that we find in our own communities today. We find individuals who practice, and I'm not speaking radical, I'm just telling the truth. We find people who practice nastiness, intemperance, debauchery, profanity, all these different things. And guess what? Some of these things, not some, but a great majority of things on the list at one point in time when I was unconscious of who I was, prior to me coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America, uniting into the Moorish Science Temple of America, and receiving the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali that cleaned me up, that reformed me, to change my mind, to change my way of thinking, I was living up to this standard of being a so-called Negro, a stomped down Negro. That was the mentality. But I'm 34 years old. Throughout this whole entire time, I never even knew that someone was creating or formulating a specific narrative for my life. Now, the question at hand, why do I need a nationality? That's the question of this lesson. That's the question of this class. The question of the class is, well, why do I need a nationality? Well, clearly we can see that our nationality was stripped from us, and likewise, our race was stripped from us, and our language was stripped from us, and so many other different things were stripped from us and taken from us. But the blessing of it is, when you look at Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali created a perpetual movement at the age of 27 years old in the year of 1913. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, or what would be known as the Moorish Science Temple of America, in the city of Newark, New Jersey. The Moorish movement was founded there. It was known at first as the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali realized that the laws weren't suitable for what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was trying to do. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali takes his movement perpetual now. It's a perpetual movement. He takes it and moves it to Chicago because the laws are more suitable in Illinois to do the things that he needed to do. And specifically what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted to do, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted to adopt his people. He wanted to become the father of his people. He wanted to give his people their nationality and divine creed. But how did he do it? He did it in the manner of looking at 4 very important words that were in the laws in Chicago. And those words include church, society, congregation, and adoption. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali took these words, and he knew that the organization that he created initially, or the organization known as the Moorish Science Temple of America initially, was civic. He wanted his movement to be civic. And from that, he used the words that would be more appropriate to create a civic organization, which is the word society. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali knew that through civics, through the word society, he can create a nation and he can create a government. And these are the things and this is the importance of, number one, understanding what the foundation of the Moorish Science Temple of America is all about. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted to be the father of his race as he was born, because the thing is, and this is the blessing of it, when you look at the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and all that he went through to establish and incorporate this organization, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, but he was born under the same terms of slavery or slaveryism that we find ourselves in, which are Negro, black, colored, etc. So when we look at these things, you may say to yourself, well, what's the purpose? People come to this country every day, and they've been coming to this country for a century or so now, and everyone's American. Well, that's true to some degree, but one thing I want to point out to you is there's a difference. So I want to show you 2 sources, and specifically the first source that I'm going to go to, give me 1 second, please, because I'm going to be drawn from various different sources. But before we get to these sources, I want to identify sources and evidence, because giving you a little bit of background information about myself, I went to school for history. So I'm a historian by nature. I also went to school for education administration. because I am an education administrator by day, by profession. That's who I am. I'm a historian as well. I learned in that aspect, but then coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America, I learned a greater, had learned, had created, have earned a greater appreciation for history and the historical aspects of this movement, as well as the historical aspects of the works and accomplishments of my foreparents, my forefathers, and my foremothers. So that's a blessing. So please bear with me. Now we're dealing with sources and evidence, and I'm just going to convert this because I was under the impression that PDF was cool. But and another thing, you'll find out about me is, I love to not make light of a situation, but I also love to just project humor and good nature, because I believe that even in the most adverse situations, you can always find humor, and you can also find the means to do good and to also produce good work. So, apologies, but I'm learning. Give me a little bit of grace, just a little bit. All right, here we go. Sources and evidence. It's coming up now. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I thank you for your patience. And we're going to get better with time. Trust and believe this is going to get better as we continue to go on and move forward. Okay. All right. So we're dealing with sources and evidence. And again, this one came out a little wonky. We're going to get this together, but I'm going to just read it for you for the sake of understanding and for the sake of time. All right. So the document that I'm pulling from and I'm drawing from is a document called the Historian's Toolbox. This document is a great document, a great book or compilation to have in your in your repertoire. And the reason being is because it's a student's guide to theory and craft of history. I use it. I used it during my time in school, in college, to learn a little bit more about sources and to make sure that when I wrote various different papers and things of that nature, my apologies, that my sources were on point. So the first part that I want to focus on specifically this evening, I want to just focus your attention on sources and history, right? So dealing with sources and evidence. So when I present, or anything that I present will have evidence with it. It will have facts to back it up. We're going to deal with primary and secondary sources, and this is page 56. And then from there, I will continue going to the prophet's literature. All right, so when we're dealing with sources and evidence, this is an important point. I highlighted it. It says, the evidence of the sources is the raw material of history and the historian's most valuable tool. Historians should not argue or narrate beyond what evidence demonstrates is the truth. History is nonfiction and not fiction. It's nonfiction, it's not fiction. It is imaginative, but it is not imaginative. Okay? So it can be imaginative, but it's not imagined. It's not something that we just create out of the sky. And then when you also look at documents, it says that the main type of primary source historians use, the main type of primary source historians use is a document. A document is a piece of evidence from the past. Historians use documents as a basis for putting together a narrative or analysis of past events. Documents provide historians with clues and information, but must be carefully and selectively used. Islam. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the course of this session, as well as for the next couple of episodes. We're going to be focusing specifically on sources, and the sources that we're going to be drawing from are the sources given to us by our beloved Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So the first source I want to bring to your attention, now that we've dealt with the issue of nationality, and we're also we haven't dealt with it, but we get into the issue or the matter of nationality. I want us to focus specifically on the prophet, and I want us to focus on being able to make the clear distinction between race and nationality, because in this country, as I mentioned earlier, there has been and continues to be a disconnect when it comes to race and nationality. Race and nationality are not one and the same. Race and nationality are two different things. They're separate and distinct from one another, and nevertheless, they both they do go hand in hand with one another. Because when you look at what nationality is, by definition, nationality is the quality or characteristic which arises from the fact of a person's belonging to a nation or state. That's what nationality is by definition. But then also a deeper meaning of that, or a not deeper, but a more, I guess you can say, extensive, or I don't necessarily want to say extensive, but a more in-depth analysis of nationality. It says this. It says nationality in political theory is a term designating to persons who make up a nation. In the same sense, a group united by very strong ties. Among the possible ties are a belief in membership in the same general community and common customs, culture, tradition, history, language, and literature. So that right there, brothers and sisters, that right there is synonymous with the Moorish Science Temple of America. Uh, we have possible ties. We have a belief in membership. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us in Acts 6, that all members must proclaim their nationality, and that we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. Likewise, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he lets us know that, hey, we are a part of a general community. Upon coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America, you're given a name. You're given an ancient name, a holy name, and the names of Il, which is Il, or Bay. Il or Bay, not both connected, but you get Il or Bay when you come into the Moorish Science Temple of America. We also have common customs. Excuse me. And I'm, like I stated before, I'm getting over what I'm getting over. So I'm just going to drink a little bit of tea. My apologies. We have common customs. But the Prophet also teaches us in our Quran that customs cannot or do not alter the nature of truth. And I'm paraphrasing that. But the Prophet also teaches us in chapter 47 that we're all, those of us who are members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, a legally and lawfully chartered organization, incorporated organization, that we have the ability and we have the right, to create our own customs in conjunction with the laws of the Grand Major Temple and the laws given to us by our Prophet. So that's another aspect, okay? And then culture and tradition. Here in Baltimore, Maryland, we have what is called Ancient Forefathers Day. And that is a day that we give honor to our ancestors. We give honors to the Moorish pioneers, Moorish leaders, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, of course, and all different other aspects. But we also allow individuals of other different nationalities to come and fellowship with us, to come and learn our customs, and we learn their customs, with the exception of amalgamation, which the Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us not to do, but we learn from one another. This is part of being part of the family of nations. We also have tradition, which I mentioned. We have history. So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he teaches us from a historical lens. He teaches us from a divine or a spiritual lens. He's teaching us from those lenses interchangeably, and at times they're also connected and interwoven with each other. So when the Prophet Noble Drew Ali states that, and I'm just using this as an example, and I'm looking at my Divine Constitution and bylaws, so my apologies for looking down, but the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is teaching us that we have a nationality and a divine creed that's interwoven. You understand? And then we have language, and we also have literature. So our language, you may see me say in common settings, Islam brother, Islam sister, Islam. And then some Moors, we say Islamism, because that's the old time religion. So this is our language. We speak a specific Moorish dialect and a specific Moorish language. And of course, I stated literature. But I don't want to belabor this point or this portion, but I just want to read a little bit more. It says, while no one of these factors is essential, some must be present or cohesion to be strong enough to justify the term nationality. And this is getting to the point that we're about to hit on right now, because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is so masterful. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali is being guided by the great God Allah. But the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he knew the issues and the ills that we were facing, that we still are facing, and the fact that we had a mental issue, a mental problem, something that we couldn't quite make our minds up with, right? So here we go. We're going to try this time. We're going to try to upload this document, this source, and please bear with me. We're 35 minutes in, so we're doing really well right now. And this is a source. And if you are a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, or even if you are a sympathizer of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this document, what I'm about to pull up, it may be you may be familiar with it. Just give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. All right, yes. It's pulling up. Okay, I'm going to maximize it. All right, here we go. So we have the voice of the prophet. Voice of the prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The voice of the prophet. And I'm going to just read it. I'm going to read it from the Moorish literature. Give me 1 second. And you can follow along if you have a copy of the Moorish literature. And if you don't have a copy, well, by all means, you can follow along on the page, follow along on the channel. Give me 1 second. The voice of the prophet. All right. So the voice of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali states this, and this is where I was February 1st, 2015. The prophet says, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have the power to redeem your race because you will know who you are and who your forefathers were. I want to stop right there. So the prophet is getting us to think. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches and states that it is stated, let me say it like this. It is stated that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated that if I can get you to thinking, you can save yourself. To think is a job and it's a task, especially in this day and age, because with so much technology and so many distractions, many of us don't even think about thinking. We allow our phones to think for us. We allow others to think for us, influencers, etc., to think for us, and we allow thoughts to be projected upon us, and those thoughts aren't even our thoughts. But the prophet is getting us to think, who were my forefathers? Did my forefathers and foremothers have a national name? And if so, what was their name? Did they have a name before they were brought to these shores, allegedly in the 17th century? They had to have a name. It couldn't have been black, because black, when you look at black, black is an English word. Black is nothing more than a color, and it doesn't properly identify a nation of people. It doesn't properly identify a race. There's no such race as a black race. There's no such race as a white race, for that matter. And people, we have to come to those realizations, and we have to come to grips with that. That the more we look at black and white for what it is in the truest sense, it's nothing more than a color. All right. So the prophet says, because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Now, I want to go back to that document, that encyclopedia, and that was from the Encyclopedia Columbia that I was reading from for that second definition of nationality. That's a pretty old encyclopedia, but the prophet says, because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. And that portion that he has in quotes, that's being drawn from the forerunner, who was Brother Marcus Mosiah Aurelius Garvey. Now, it states that, and this is unity where there's strength now, it says, while none of these factors is essential, some must be present for the cohesion to be strong enough to justify the term nationality. So strength comes from unifying with your brothers and sisters in the unified thought. Then number one, and this is not to make light of it, but to get us to think, we all praise the great God Allah, or we should, as Moorish Americans, prescribe to us the name of our God, which is Allah. Prophet Noble Drew Ali waking us up in the mind again to teach us the name of our God, Allah, to teach us that our race is Asiatic, to teach us that our nationality is Moorish American, and to teach us that the shade of our skin is olive. Let's continue. The prophet says, come good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This field is open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and to take your place in the affairs of men. Now, the blessing of that, right? There's a portion that I'm going to read real briefly, and this portion is coming from one specific school of thought that we give honors to, and that's the school of thought is the school of one of the prophets that we find on our nationality card. We honor all true and divine prophets: Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha, and Prophet Confucius. Prophet Buddha is who I'm going to hone in on and focus on for a moment. So the prophet said mental slavery. So slavery, we're taught, in grade school, slavery is an issue that deals with individuals mistreating and misusing people. And this is a grade school mentality. This is from what we call in the Moorish Science Temple of America, European psychology. We're taught, that slavery is an issue that was solely contingent upon the shade of one's skin, and also solely contingent upon the fact that an individual hated another person. Now, I'm not going to refute that because it probably happened from a case-by-case basis. But the Prophet Noble Ali also teaches us in our Holy Quran that every nation has suffered slavery. Every nation. Okay? Due to the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. So it's not something that's new to us, but the issue at hand that we're dealing with that makes things a little bit more, stinging, is the fact that here in 2024, we're dealing with a matter of mental slavery. We're dealing with the issue where a person can look, and I'm going to give you an example. You can look at my phone right here. My phone is black. This is a black phone. And you have a brother or sister who may be dark olive, medium olive, or light olive. They'll come up to you and they'll say, "Oh, how you doing, black man?" And clearly, if you look at me and you look at this phone, or even at the microphone amplifier in front of me, clearly the shade of my skin does not parallel off with this microphone condenser, nor does it parallel off with this phone. So something's not right with that. That's mental slavery. Mental slavery is that we use certain names, and I'm not browbeating anyone, but I want us to think about this. We're using certain names to identify ourselves or to call ourselves, and these names, some of the names are so derogatory, I won't even repeat them on the program, just to keep the program clean enough. But the N-word and things of that nature, we have our people use these words interchangeably, and now you have other people, other nations of people who use these words as well to communicate with one another and also to communicate with us, and we accept them, and that's a problem. That's mental slavery. But not to belabor the issue because it's 43 minutes into the meeting. But I'm gonna read this definition. It says mental slavery, and if you want a copy again, I have copies of all these documents. Well, not all these documents, but the documents that I'm sharing, and I have no issue whatsoever sharing. I was taught, and I've been taught by National Grand Shigas Tiffany Jones Bay that freely you give, freely you receive, so freely you give. So if I've learned a great deal in the span of time that I've been in the temple, and I'm still learning. So what do I look like holding these lessons and holding these things? This is for the people. This is for our brothers and sisters. But mental slavery, it says, a revision of Buddhism. It says mental slavery, and I'm just reading for the sake of time. It says a situation where one is deprived of personal freedom and is forced to serve another is slavery. Excuse me. But worse than bodily slavery is mental slavery. When we are so conditioned by a person, a group, an idea, or an ideology that we are unable to think for ourselves to the extent of being unable to distinguish right from wrong and from acting rightly. We remain mental slaves when we are ignorant of the true cases of the problems and sufferings, or when we are deluded with persons, events, and ideas in our lives. The prophet said that Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian were names that delude to slavery. When you delude something, you're watering it down. You're taking the basis of what it is. You're taking the pristine nature of what it is, and you're debasing it to something that equates to almost nothing. You understand? So the purpose or the importance of nationality, the importance of understanding, number one, or assuring yourself, because you have to. The purpose of coming into the Moorish Science Temple of America, first, is to assure yourself that you're not Negro, Black, and colored. And once you are able to assure yourself that you're not Negro, Black, and colored, then you can teach other people. It doesn't matter if it's a senator. It doesn't matter if it's a congressman. It doesn't matter if it's an education administrator. It doesn't matter if it's a one of these scholars in these ivory towers, whether it be an Asiatic university, whether it be a European dominated or predominantly European university. It doesn't matter if it's a brother on the hedges of highways or a sister, for that matter, on the hedges of highways. Once you assure yourself that you're not Negro, Black, and colored, and you're fortified in the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drawley, then you can go out and you can start teaching the people the truth. Not just Asiatics, but Europeans too. Because these individuals too, they're mixed up in the mind. They really think that they're white. The same thing with Asiatics thinking that they're so-called black. All right? So, Prophet Noble Drawley states this. He says, "Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think your condition can be better. This is a field open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men." And that's what nations do. When you look at, when you look at the United Nations, and I'm just using that as an example, so anyone who's looking at the playback, don't pounce on me. But if you look at nations, whether it be even, and I'm gonna give you an example, the brothers and sisters over in Palestine, in Gaza right now, they are a nation of people. And they have delegations, they have people who are speaking on their behalf about the things that are happening, the atrocities and the things that are happening because of the conflicts that are occurring with other nations. These are the things that is an example of individuals taking their place in the affairs of men. Because this is an affair, this is an issue, this is something that is happening. The prophet says, if the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish National Divine Movement. It's interchangeable. The Moorish National Divine Movement is the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's not a separate organization. It's not a different organization. Again, it's not an add-on. The Moorish National Divine Movement, or the Moorish Divine National Movement, is the Moorish Science Temple of America. And we'll get into that in later dates, in later episodes as well, where we're going to delve deep into the organization, the basis to give people a basic foundation of what our organization is about. The prophet says, if you have a nation, you must have a free national name. So this is another part that we're going to be delving into. To be recognized by this nation, if you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. So, based on what the Prophet Noble Drawley is teaching me, or teaching us as we continue to read the voice of the prophet, there is no such thing as a black American citizen. There is no such thing as a white American citizen. There's no such thing, or there is a such thing, but it's not. It is unconstitutional to have first, second, and third class citizens. However, there's something that has been taking place, and something that has transpired to create this element of first, second, and third class citizenship. And these are things that we're going to have to peer into and investigate thoroughly on this channel. The prophet says, this is what is meant when it is said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added unto you, by Prophet Noble Drawley. And we're taught that heaven is a state of mind in the Moorish Science Temple of America. When you're dealing with heaven and hell, you're dealing with conditions that we create. It's not a place that you go. But I don't want to focus or belabor on that point. So, now that we have covered the bare basics of this, we're going to continue with the introductory portion of our lesson concerning nationality. So, excuse me, I'm going to upload another document real briefly, another source real briefly to the presentation, and then from that point we want to close out, and you'll see, and we will pick a back up next week. Give me 1 second. My apologies. Just want to make it plain, and to be honest, this is an introduction to the channel. So, we just want to make sure that people know that, and people are aware of what's happening right now. But trust and believe, by the second or third episode, this is going to be a fine-tuned machine. Things won't be sideways and what may have you. But, I just thank everyone for just, tuning in. Thank you all for listening to the playback. And, so let's continue. So the portion that I want to deal with, or the portion I want to bring your attention to this evening, is actually coming from the great book of the Resurrection. And this portion is called Intro to Philosophy Concerning Race and Nationality. So I'm going to just pull that up. I'm going to project the other. Okay, here we go. And that might be a little blurry, and if so, I apologize again. We're going to get this right and tight. We're going to get it right and tight. All right. Here we go. Okay. So it states this. It says, Introduction to Philosophy Concerning Race and Nationality. It says, be it known to all whom it may concern. Before we even get into that, I want to focus on the word philosophy. Because when you deal with philosophy, and I saw what someone stated in the comments, someone said, you should also investigate what nationality means instead of pretending to create one. Thank you for that comment. I don't think we're pretending to create anything. If you want to challenge me on it, by all means, it's open to all challenges. But philosophy, a body of knowledge, the discipline of dealing in irrational speculation and contemplation. So in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we don't speculate, but we do contemplate. The Prophet Noble Ali says to contemplate thy frame. And by contemplating your frame, you're dealing with what we call the natural science. So when you're dealing with philosophy, philosophy is the body of knowledge, the discipline of dealing in rational speculation or contemplation as a natural science, alchemy. So when you're dealing with alchemy, you're dealing with the turning of base metals into gold or fine gold. And what you'll find when you continue to study yourself, you'll find that everything that exists within this earth actually exists within you. But also another definition of philosophy is occult knowledge. So for those who are listening, and what we may be teaching may be over your head, because these lessons or the things that we teach in the Moorish Science Temple of America, it has an inner and outer meaning. The body of the highest truth, the science of the most fundamental principle of matter. So, introduction to philosophy concerning race and nationality, be it known to all who it may concern. And here it is. There are but only two races of people on earth, although Europeans' philosophy determines that it is 5 races. But under the divine laws of our prophet, Noble Ali, there are only 2. But there are many nationalities of people on earth. Man gets his nationality from the country or land his forefathers, and that is subject to change through an adoption. Okay? It says, but man's race never changes regardless how he may amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe or what part of the earth he may inhabit. His race will still be the same because that is a natural descent, and it cannot be changed unless man have powers that extend beyond the sun, moon, and stars, or if they extend beyond the great God Allah, which I don't know about anybody here, but my powers don't extend beyond the great God Allah. So when we're dealing with race and when we're dealing with nationality, they are 2 different things. But let's focus on nationality because this is the focal point, right? So let me pull this up. Give me 1 second. And as I stated before, each document that I'm pulling, I'm not just going to pull documents that pertain to the Moorish Science Temple of America, but I want to draw your attention to a document, actually a book. And this book is a book called Peoples of North America. And this book is a book that I found quite interesting because I found it in the library of one of the old schools that I taught at. The school was shutting down, and they said, well, hey, we have, documents and records and things of that nature, and, feel free to, sign it out, but you can definitely get a copy if you want to. So I ended up getting a copy of the record, and from that point on, I said, well, this is interesting, because when you look at how society works to some degree, not to every degree, but to some degree, individuals are unaware or at times are not cognizant of the fact that you have people who are determining and shaping your reality. And I'll show you what I mean in the next episode. But in this episode, I want us to focus specifically on this table of contents, and I'm going to close out for the sake of time because we're 2 minutes in, 2 minutes remaining. So it's processing. All right. So this document right here, this document, again, is called Peoples of North America. And if you can see the document clearly, I'll show you the record right here. I have it in front of me. It says Peoples of the World, my apology, North America. Really detailed document, but it also states the cultural, geographical setting, and historical backgrounds of 30 North American peoples. And when you look at this, you have different people who are identified. But what I found interesting about this document, the table of contents itself is telling. It states you have a preface, acknowledgement, introduction. You also have the old cultures, what are the Nazis, the mound builders, and the Thule. But when you look at the cultures of today, you have different cultures of today. And some of these cultures are cultures that have been made. And then also some of these cultures are cultures that have grown from the nationality or the nations of their people, right? And I'll give you an example. Let's look at it. You have so-called African Americans. You have the Inuits. You have the Amish. And if you know anything about the Amish derive from a specific nation of people from Europe by way of Germany and by way of that area of that specific area or geographical landmass of Europe. You also have Arab Americans. You have British Canadians. You have Cherokees. You have Cheyenne. You have Chinese Americans. You have Creole, which are derived from a mixture of people. You have the Dakota, the Sioux. You have English Americans. You have Filipino Americans. You have French Canadians. You have German Americans. You have the Hopi people. You have Irish Americans. You have Italian Americans. You have Japanese Americans. And guess what else you have? You have Jewish Americans. Now, going back to the definition that we went over earlier when it dealt with nationality, it states this, because I didn't finish the second part. It states, nationality determines the political status of the individual, especially with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines his civil status. Nationality arises either by birth or by naturalization. Okay? It says, according to Sagme, nationality is also used as opposed to territoriality for the purpose distinguishes the case of a nation having no national territory. And the example they give is the so-called, the example they give is the Jewish or the Jewish people. That's an example of an individual or group of people at one point who had no territory at one point, but today they do. Today that recognizes a nation of people. So it isn't something that's made up. It isn't something that's speculated. It's something that you have to look into and peer into when we say that when we not say, but when we teach that we're Moorish Americans, we are Moorish people by nationality because our ancestors, our foreparents, were brought to these shores in the earlier part of the 17th century. And as a result of that, our nationality was taken away because Negro, Black, Colored, African American, etc., does not properly identify a nation of people, and likewise by the European nations in 1779. But the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I'm wrapping it up, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he came to us and he brought to us our true records, telling us who we were, which was Moorish Americans. We're Moorish Americans because our foreparents, our forefathers inhabited Morocco. And we're not talking about the country of Morocco, but we're talking about the Moroccan Empire, which at one point in time was a vast empire that stretched from that part of the world, which is known as Northwest Africa, all the way to this part of the world of Africa. And also, these things existed prior to what we know today as the Atlantic Ocean. So we predate, we lived here, we've been here, we've been on this part of the world as well as that part of the world long before there was any means of trying to identify us as Negro, Black, and colors, etc. Our ancient name, or Moabites, is the ancient name for Moorish or Moroccans. And then, in regards to it, we're not just Moorish, excuse me, but we're Moorish Americans because we adopted the national name America because we are children of our forefathers and our mothers who were born here in America, which makes us American. And we are of Moroccan descent, but our race, which is Asiatic, because at one point in time, this whole landmass, and I mean the whole landmass, we're not talking about the idea or the concept of 7 continents being created, but this whole landmass was Asia. That's something that you can't deny. That's something that's irrefutable. That's something that can be proven, that this whole landmass was Asia. So it's our desire as Moorish American people that our people claim that descent name, because at the end of the day, for everyone who's listening and tuning in, you can just look at many of the different holidays that take place in this country and just look at them and fact check them. When you look at, and I give an example, Christmas. A lot of people think Christmas started in a specific land, somewhere part of Asia, that's called the so-called Middle East, but that's not true. Christmas was invented and started in Rome. And I'm not speaking radical, I'm just speaking the truth. It was started in Rome, so therefore it's a Roman holiday. St. Patrick's Day is an Irish holiday. And you have many different holidays or holy days or things of that nature that people give credence to based off of the customs and principles of their forefathers. So when they come to this country, individuals are to proclaim their nationality, they follow their customs and things of that nature, right? And the prophet teaches us that since Italians, Greeks, and other and English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name, it's no more right than we are able to do so as well. So you have to know and understand, number one, that Negro, Black, and Colored, they don't probably identify a nation of people. They never had, never did, and never will. And to end on this point, as I stated earlier in the program, you had this thing called Negro History Week, which was created by Carter G. Woodson on February 7, 1926. But guess what? On November 28, 1926, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali incorporates his movement in Chicago, Illinois, and he incorporates it as a civic organization. So he's laying the framework to get our people out of that mental mind state of mental slavery. These are these points that we are raising, or the points that I'm raising this evening. These are points that are not just hearsay. These are things that can be examined, carefully examined, investigated, as well as proven. So with that being said, I don't think we have any other questions or any other comments in the chat, and maybe we do. But if we do, and if we don't, well, if we do, I'll be reading them. If not, by all means, put your questions and comments in the chat. Put your questions and comments on YouTube. We take all questions and comments, take all challenges and things of that nature. It's often being stated by Moorish Americans and nationality is the order of the day, which is true. But also the Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us that we are to learn to love instead of hate. So anything that I'm teaching and presenting right now, these are the information I present right now. I teach it every Sunday. I'm the Sunday school instructor for 1055 North Milton Avenue. I invite anyone and everyone to come out, regardless of who you are, come out to exercise your 5 senses. Come out to the Moorish Science Temple of America, located at 1055 North Milton Avenue, and just come and learn the truth. Our meeting hours are Fridays from 8 to 10, Sundays from 12 to 2. I also want to give a shout out to our sister temple over in West Baltimore, which is 2900 Pressman Street. Their hours are the same as our hours, 8 to 10 on Fridays, 12 to 2. Again, that's 2900 Pressman Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21216. And if you're in East Baltimore, 1055 North Milton Avenue, Temple number 13. Our hours of operation during the course of the week for public meetings are Fridays from 8 to 10 and Sundays from 12 to 2. I would love for people to bring their questions and answers out, and put your questions and comments in the chat on YouTube as well. They are definitely needed, and they are warranted. So with that being said, I'm going to end off with the Moorish American prayer, thanking all who have listened, who have tuned in to this program, those who will tune into the program. And I'm going to end off with the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam and peace.